Welcome, sports fans, to another weekly edition of our Pioneer Sports Preview. Once again, I'm joined by Mr. David Pavlowski. We're going to be talking again about the boys basketball action that's going to be gearing up here soon. So looking at this week, specifically, we got the CSAA, a lot of big-time matchups coming up here. We have Morley heading to Big Rapids on Tuesday. We also have Chip going to Reed City. And then on Wednesday, we have Reed City going to Big Rapids for a makeup contest. A couple weeks ago, they got canceled because of weather. So just looking off, first here, let's look at Tuesday's game here. Let's start off with Morley at Big Rapids, and let's look at the matchup there, and you just look at those two teams. What are your thoughts on the game plan both squads are going to want to take into the contest?
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup, and Morley Stanwood now 9-5, 9-4 in the conference. Kind of below those top teams now. But a big opportunity here. They lost to Big Rapids earlier this season at Morley Stanwood. Close game though, very physical.
Definitely.
Saw a few technicals. Kid got ejected. Was getting a little heated. But anytime you can see players like Quinn Tyson go head to head with guys like Tim Cairnduff, it's a good night of basketball. And for Morley Stanwood, talked to head coach Josh Bull last time they played. Their big focus was shutting down who Coach Ken Ingalls refers to lovingly as Q, Quinn Tyson.
Yeah.
The big thing for them, they wanted to get their guards, Tom and Mike Carey. They wanted to get some of their guards out and stop Q on the perimeter because he can get dangerous if he starts getting hot from beyond the arc. And but for Big Rapids, really, all they need to do is do what they always do. Give it to Quinn Tyson. He'll get to the free throw line about 20 times a night. Yeah. And, Ken Ingalls always says he's the man with the biggest target on his back in the CSAA. He always has to go soak in the ice tub after the games. He gets fouled. He gets to the line. If Big Rapids can do that, they're going to have a pretty easy night. But Morley Stanwood, they've shown up against some really good teams this season. They beat Newaygo. They played Reed City pretty close. And it could go either way. But I think Big Rapids definitely the advantage if they can just do what they do.
Yeah, like you said, obviously the Cardinals go heavily through Tyson, but if you can stop him and make the other guys step up and make some baskets, that can definitely play in the Mohawks' favor. Now let's look at the game here. The other game going on Tuesday, you got Chip going over to Reed City, taking on the Coyotes. Coyotes just took a loss from Lakeview on Friday. That's after they handed Lakeview their first loss, I think it was a few weeks ago there. So just looking at this matchup here, what are the Coyotes going to have to do to get back on track against a Chip team that's young and making progress, but like I said, they're still young. They're having some of their growing pains right now.
And, I talked to Chippewa Hills coach Mark Palong last week, at a game, and the team is very young. They've had some tough losses, just 4 wins on the season, but one of those came last weekend against Central Montcalm, a Hornet squad that gave Reed City some trouble in Reed City. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, but Reed City, they're so dangerous. They have Chad Samuels can score 37. Kyle Wright puts up double-doubles pretty much every night he plays, gets a pile of rebounds. And I think the unsung hero for the Coyotes, Dean Eichenberg, who knocks down threes. He gets open. They have that dribble drive offense where if Josh Saez can get into the lane, they find guys wide open for triples on the outside. I think Dean Eichenberg a big part of it. But the Coyotes, again, kind of like Big Rapids, if they can stick to their game plan, Dean McGuire's plan, where they're going to get in your face on defense, they're going to create chaos, really, on the defensive end, and then just score, hit threes, shoot the ball as many times as they can. They'll be able to, I think, to beat Chippewa Hills, but it's not going to be, I think, as easy as it looks on paper. Hunter Conley and Michael Todd have really stepped up lately for the Warriors, so that one could get interesting, but Reed City, they just have too much firepower. I think they have too many athletes for the Warriors, a very young squad to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I think it might just be too much of like the firepower for Reed City in the end. But Chip's been playing better though, and they're starting to get some things going here. So just a little bit of getting some experience under the belt, and hopefully that'll pay off for them as they keep building the program up here. All right, now setting that up, then we have Wednesday, so we're going to have the Cardinals and the Coyotes going at it. So just looking at those two squads, what's that matchup going to be like? Obviously, players all across the floor that can put up some big numbers there.
I can't keep the smile off my face. Just loving high school basketball. This gets me pumped up.
I was going to say, we could tell, man.
I know. I'm an excitable guy. Just looking at how these teams match up, this is just fantastic. You have Quinn Tyson on one side. You have Chad Samuels on the other side. Both guys who can put up 30-plus points. They can knock down the perimeter shot. They can get to the free throw line. They can get to the rack. Both very similar players, very, very talented. Then you go to the supporting cast. You have Kyle Wright, Dean Eichenberg for the Coyotes. And then you have Austin and Jake Hayes. You got a couple other names, Eric Boyd, Eric Chase for the Cardinals. But man, it's going to be great. Both teams, both coaches, kind of with a similar game plan and mentality. We're going to get after you on defense, full court, man to man, just chaos. Then on the offensive side, it's very similar as well. We're going to try to shoot a lot of threes, knock down some triples if we can. If not, we're going to get to the rack. We're going to get to the foul line. So almost a mirror match here in the CSAA. And if things go according to those teams' plans on Tuesday, it could be 11-2 versus 11-2 coming into this game. So it's going to be a fantastic environment, I think. Great atmosphere. Going to be a huge game. And it's got everything you want as a basketball fan to watch.
Definitely, no doubt. It's going to be a good contest, and like you said, here we get to the end of the regular season here. The top pecking order there in the CSA really going to sort itself out there as we go through these last few weeks. All right, now Mr. Bob Allen joins me. We're going to switch our focus to college athletics, specifically looking at the Fair State men's and women's basketball teams. So looking at this, especially this past Saturday, both teams taking on Northern Michigan. The women just edged out at the end by the Wildcats, and then the men's team was able to snap their 10-game losing streak with a win over the Wildcats and former FSU coach Bill Saul. So let's look at the men's team specifically here, starting off looking at the going on the road to face Northwood on Thursday. Let's look at Saturday here. Just how big was it for them, obviously, to get off the schneid and break that double-digit losing streak?
I think that was secondary. I hate to say that.
Oh, yeah, it was.
But when you've got loss after loss, a win, it doesn't matter who is it against. It's just big. And they've been so close in all those games, pretty much. They're coming down to the last 2 minutes and they're just not executing. Just not getting the stop, getting the bucket. So to get that win is big for them. And it happened against Coach Saul. That's big. But I think all the guys on the team and even Coach Bronkham are like, okay, we can win.
Now we can move on.
And now we can move on, take that next step. Now let's make it now 1 game, 2 games, and start building in the right direction. Because this whole season they've been kind of on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So maybe now they're starting to swing the other way, and with the end of the season coming, they could be a dangerous team.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it's a team that's kind of learning how to win. And like you said, they started out with that big winning streak, then went through this long losing streak, but plenty of games where they're in until the end and the ball just didn't bounce their way. So I think definitely, obviously, this could give them a little boost of confidence going forward as they head off on this road trip here this weekend. And now looking at the women's team, lost the last 4 games. Those 4 losses, 3 of those have been by 8 points or less, counting the one Saturday against the Wildcats. So looking at, there's no one statistical category where they're really getting beat. It's pretty even across the board, but they just can't come out with a win. So just what do they got to do to get back on the winning side here?
You mentioned it's not one thing, and I think that's what's frustrating Coach Lamoureux. Mm-hmm. One night they can't score. I think they lost like 52-49, and then the next one they're losing in a shootout. Mm-hmm. and they can't stop anyway, but they can score at will. And I think that's the frustrating part. And that's just kind of a consistency. You got to find that. You got to play at a high level, and maybe they're playing up or down to the level of competition.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be some of that. And they got to overcome that and get to that level of where they're playing at high and make everyone play at their level. And until they do so, they're going to be a roller coaster team.
Yeah, they've there's been the effort there, but like I said, Coach Tate, she just at this point kind of doesn't know what to do. She said the other day, because it's just the effort's there. It's just the end product isn't a win for the Bulldogs. So we'll see if they can break this night coming up this weekend, starting Thursday with Northwood. All right, now shifting our focus to the pro game here, Mr. Brandon Fountain joins me once again. Going to be going back to our favorite subject, the Detroit Lions. They finally introduced their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, even 3 weeks after the fact that everybody knew he was hired, so Detroit on par right there. But just listening to the way he was talking, coming over from the Saints system, obviously wants to implore a lot of the system they used over there in New Orleans and kind of tweak it to Detroit. So just looking at the offense, obviously the Saints have had prolific for the last few years with Drew Brees leading that attack. What do you think, if anything, that could correlate to coming over to Detroit and seeing if we're going to see the same sort of production for a Detroit team? It's already been pretty explosive on offense.
Yeah, production's not an issue. It's establishing a running game to complement their passing game. Their passing game is fine. I mean, when Calvin Johnson gets 2,000 yards, you don't have to worry. They don't have to worry as much as the talk has been about getting another wide receiver. Mm-hmm. They have weapons. They need to establish with either Reggie Bush or Drake Bell that running game that needs to be there. I mean, any NFL team that wins the Super Bowl has a running game. That's plain and simple.
It's been the way it's been the last few years. Specifically looking at it, like you said, a lot of focus, a lot of pundits are saying, number 2 wide receiver, Calvin Johnson can't keep getting beat up like he's been getting beat up, especially now that he's starting to enter his 30s and getting, a little bit towards the end of his prime, but he's still got plenty of years. So looking at the offense, also tight end Brandon Pettigrew, who, has more drops usually than catches, but he'll be a free agent this offseason. They're going to have to make some decisions there. So just looking at the offense, would you have to say that number 2 receiver would have to be the biggest priority, considering they can keep the running game going there with Bell and Bush?
Considering that, yes. Do need another weapon. Chris Durham is not the guy to go to on 3rd and 10. And hopefully with a new coordinator, you get some common sense in there so you're not throwing it on 3rd and 3 or 2nd and 3 when you can just run it. That putting yourself in a position to be successful. That's got to be a mindset that Jim Schwartz never even considered. So
I would probably agree with you on that one. All right, sports fans, thank you once again for joining us for our weekly sports preview. Remember, you can always log on to BigRapidsNews.com, or you can swing by your newsstand and pick up an edition of the Pioneer Daily to see what local and state sports news is going on in your area today.